President Yoon Suk-yeol and main opposition leader Lee Jae-myung held their first official meeting this afternoon with their focus on people's livelihoods. Eyes are on whether cooperation could be possible as the two sides have been clashing over a host of issues. From this week, medical professors will take 1 day off per week amid their tug-of-war with the government. The health authorities plan to send more public and military doctors to help fill in their absence. U.S. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu discuss ongoing hostage and ceasefire negotiations over the phone amid Israel's looming offensive against Rafah. It remains to be seen how this will impact Israel's next move. It's April 29th, 2024. This is Newscenter.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. The high-stakes first-ever meeting between President Yoon Suk-yeol and main opposition leader Lee Jae-myung wrapped up just a few hours ago. We have our presidential office correspondent Woo Soo-young live from the Yongsan office. Soo-young, the two leaders began their meeting with a handshake and smile, but how did the talks go? What were the main points raised by the opposition leader?
Good evening, Sung-min. So as you said, the talks started pleasantly enough with smiles and pleasantries and even comments about the fine weather. But opposition leader Lee Jae-myung got down to business straight away as President Yoon gave him the chance to speak first. Now, Lee laid out an array of issues that his Democratic Party of Korea had been pushing for before the meeting was held. First, stressing the need to improve people's livelihoods, citing high inflation, interest and exchange rates. Now, in this regard, he asked Yoon to accept the DP's proposal to hand out 250,000 won or $182 to all Koreans to boost their immediate income, as well as the passing of a special bill on compensating victims of rental fraud. Another key issue or demand was to accept a special council investigation into the death of a Marine last year and a special act to look into the Itaewon disaster where 159 people lost their lives as a result of a crowd crush. The DP railroaded these bills through the National Assembly only to have President Yoon veto them, along with a special council probe into allegations of stock manipulation allegedly involving First Lady Kim Gon-hee. He appeared to allude to this too, saying concerns surrounding family members should be cleared up. He then asked the president to express his regret for exercising his veto on such bills and said he hoped Yoon would respect the assembly and recognise the opposition party as a partner in national affairs. That being said, he said that the outcome of the general election showed the people's will and desire for change in how the country is run, saying that this was the final chance for the administration to change its direction in managing state affairs. These controversial points aside, he appeared to endorse Yoon's efforts to reform the medical system in the country, suggesting a four-party discussion between the government, ruling and opposition parties and the medical community, adding that expanding medical school admissions was a major task that must be accomplished. He also backed Yoon's push for pension reform, saying the DP would actively cooperate. The president responded that he'd anticipated these such topics to be raised and invited Lee to elaborate in a more private setting.
And so it appears that Lee didn't mince his words. So what comes next after this team meeting? There was no joint declaration.
That's right. The two sides decided to hold two separate press briefings on each side after the meeting, which was held for 2 hours and 15 minutes, according to Yoon's senior press secretary, Yoon. Now, the first meeting, of course, it wasn't held to produce outcomes, but rather to establish the starting points of communication and cooperation, with President Yoon having initially said when he invited Lee Jae-myung to hold their first ever talks to meet frequently onwards to talk together, to eat together and discuss state affairs. However, the Democratic Party has made clear their demands, rather pressuring Yoon to make political concessions. So we're going to have to see how both sides navigate through these differences. Yoon told reporters after the briefing that to narrow their differences in approach to policy, the president suggested a bipartisan consultation body, while Lee rather indicated that he prefers to keep negotiations within the existing framework of the National Assembly, where he, of course, holds a majority. What they did manage to agree on, though, was the need for medical and pension reform, so perhaps there could be baby steps taken there. Yoon and Lee also, they agreed to continue their these meetings in the future in various formats as needed, not necessarily this one-to-one tea time approach. The ruling and opposition parties, of course, they're going to be taking their next steps based on the outcome of today's talks. And the DP has been calling for an extraordinary session of the National Assembly with a plenary session that they're hoping to schedule for Thursday to push through their bills on special investigations, which critics view as highly politicized moves that rather target the Yoon administration, as well as measures to improve livelihoods, which could impact the country's fiscal soundness. Now, on cooperation between the two parties, between the presidential office and the opposition, it is too early to read the tea leaves. But the presidential office says it hopes that this first tea meeting will lead to continued bipartisan communication and cooperation. So that's all from me for now. Back to you, Jung-min.
Our presidential office correspondent, Oh Soo-young, thank you. And moving on from this week, medical professors start taking one day off per week amid their tug-of-war with the government. The health authorities plan to send additional public and military doctors to help fill in their absence. Kim Bo-kyung has the latest.
The government has decided to dispatch public health doctors and military medical doctors to help fill the void left by medical professors and junior doctors. The health authorities are reportedly going to look into the demand by Tuesday and deploy additional medical personnel if need be. While assuring there will be no major gap in medical services, the Vice Health Minister again urged trainee doctors to return to work and professors to remain with their patients, adding that the government has a strong will to talk.
We urge doctors to actively participate in discussions to devise improvement measures. A special presidential committee on medical reform has been officially launched, and the government reaffirms its willingness to engage in one-on-one conversations with doctors.
This comes amid much concern from patients in general hospitals, as medical professors made the decision to take one day off from their duties per week. That was decided on Friday at an emergency committee meeting of professors from around 20 major medical schools nationwide. They cited prolonged fatigue after thousands of trainee doctors have been absent from their posts since late February. Professors hinted at the possibility of more than just a day off if the government confirms that there will be an increase in the medical school enrollment quota. Starting this week, the so-called Big Five hospitals will begin to halt medical services one day a week, with professors at Severance Hospital and Seoul National University Hospital taking a day off on Tuesdays, while those at Asan Medical Center and the Catholic University of Korea's Seoul St. Mary's Hospital will take Fridays off. Professors at Samsung Medical Center will take voluntary days off based on their working schedule. Adding on to its plan to deploy additional medical personnel, the ministry reiterated its plan to inject a total of around $7.5 billion into surgical and internal departments by 2028. As part of such efforts, it unveiled specific plans to improve the working conditions of essential healthcare workers by increasing medical fees for interventional heart disease treatments, which will change starting the first day of June. Meanwhile, medical schools are expected to make the final decision on the size of their admissions increases for the 2025 academic year by Tuesday, upon a request from the Education Ministry. Watchers predict that medical schools will open a minimum of 1,500 new slots. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
South Korea's military says North Korea has installed mines near another inter-Korean road. It's seen as part of the regime's efforts to restore military measures suspended under the 2018 agreement after it scrapped it last November amid escalating tension in the region. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
North Korea appears to have installed mines on all three roads connecting the two Koreas. According to a South Korean military official on Monday, the North laid landmines on the road inside the demilitarized zone late last year, near Arrowhead Hill in Cheoron, Gangwon-do province. This road was created under the September 19th Inter-Korean military agreement signed in 2018 to combine efforts to excavate the remains of soldiers killed during the Korean War. However, after scrapping the 2018 agreement last November, Pyongyang has been taking action to ramp up its military measures.
At the end of last year, North Korea declared the complete abolishment of the September 19th military agreement and took steps to restore military measures. Accordingly, Our military is taking necessary measures.
The regime has now installed mines on all roads between the two Koreas, which had once symbolized reconciliation and cooperation. In January, they were installed on the Kang-in and Donghae roads. The North also removed numerous streetlights. North Korea has also been spotted rebuilding its guard post within the DMZ, which had been destroyed under the 2018 pact. After declaring the inter-Korean relations as that of two hostile states, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in January called for strict measures to block all channels of communication along the border. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have discussed ongoing hostage and ceasefire negotiations over the phone amid Israel's looming offensive against Rafah. It remains to be seen how this will impact Israel's next move. Lee Seung-jae has more.
U.S. President Joe Biden and his Israeli counterpart Benjamin Netanyahu held phone talks on Sunday, where the two exchanged their opinions on the ongoing hostage and ceasefire negotiations and Israel's planned offensives in Rafah. While it's unknown what the Israeli leader said about operations in Rafah, it's presumed that Netanyahu expressed his intent to go ahead with an attack if there's no ceasefire and hostage agreement reached. According to the White House, Biden, on the other hand, reiterated his clear position that there would need to be a clear and actionable plan from Israel on how they would protect civilians in Rafah. The need for humanitarian aid for Gaza was also discussed. The talks come as Israel told the U.S. that it wouldn't launch an offensive in Rafah, where more than 1 million people are displaced, until the Biden administration had an opportunity to share its concerns. Meanwhile, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas said Sunday that the U.S. is the only country that can stop Israel from conducting its offensives in Rafah. Abbas emphasized that the offensive could force much of the Palestinian population to flee the enclave. He also said such an attack in the region would lead to the biggest catastrophe in the Palestinian people's history and force Palestinians out of Gaza. He stressed that once Israel had completed its operations in the enclave, it would then look to force Palestinians out of the occupied West Bank and into Jordan. Israel has hinted at an all-out assault on Rafah for weeks, saying its goal is to eliminate Hamas' remaining battalions in their area. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Staying with armed confrontations in the global arena, Ukraine is suffering setbacks in its fight against Russian invasion amid shortages in crucial defense supplies. Yoon with the details.
The commander-in-chief of Ukraine's military, Oleksandr Syrskyi, said Sunday that the situation on the eastern front line has worsened due to Russian attacks forcing a withdrawal from positions in Donetsk, while they wait for promised U.S. support, with Russia apparently keen to use its superior troop numbers and artillery before reinforcements arrive. The U.S. approved a military aid package for Ukraine worth $61 billion last week, but the new weapons have yet to reach Ukraine's front lines. Ukrainian troops have been struggling with shortages in manpower, ammunition, and air defense systems for several months. Taking to Telegram, Syrskyi said the situation had worsened, describing the most difficult areas as Mariinka and northwest of Avdiivka, a town captured by Russian forces in February. He also revealed some tactical success by Moscow, which had forced Kyiv to take up new defensive positions farther west, but added that it was unable to gain operational advantages. He did not address the status of the village Novobog-Mutivka, located about 10 kilometers north of Avdiivka, which Russia on Sunday claimed it had taken. Meanwhile, on Sunday, North Korea criticized the United States for supplying long-range ballistic missiles, which Ukraine has now used twice. The criticism, through North Korea's Korean Central News Agency, claimed that Washington's actions were a bad attempt that can never change the situation on the battlefield and will only fuel Zelensky's reckless confrontational behavior. Yoon, Arirang News.
Amid a strong dollar and heightened tensions in the Middle East, exchange rates in Asia have remained wobbly. The Japanese yen weakened to 160 against the US dollar at one point on Monday, which is its lowest in 34 years. This follows the Bank of Japan's decision on Friday to leave its monetary policy unchanged, signaling it will hold off further rate hikes until it sees positive inflation. Similarly, the Japanese currency tumbled against other major currencies such as the pound and the euro. Meanwhile, the South Korean won to dollar exchange rate has also risen this year, surpassing the 1,401 mark for the first time in 17 months. Last year, Korea saw a record number of international patients seeking medical treatment. Data from the Ministry of Health on Monday show that the number of foreign nationals who received treatment in Korea, but not residing in or covered by the country's national health insurance system, reached 606,000. This is a more than 20% increase from the previous record set in 2019 and is the highest figure since data collection began in 2009. In terms of nationality, Japan took the lead with 31%, followed by China and the United States. Dermatology drew the most patients, followed by plastic surgery and internal medicine. On the cultural front, the Taekwondowon has been contributing to the globalization of the Korean traditional sport, Taekwondo, and this year it celebrates its 10th anniversary. Our Choi Soo-young went there to see what this center means when it comes to promoting the spirit and values of this martial art.
A decade of the ready stance, a leap forward for the next 100 years. On Monday, the Taekwondo Promotion Foundation celebrated the 10th anniversary of its main center, the Taekwondowon, at the T1 Stadium in Jeju, Jeollabuk-do Province in South Korea. Taekwondo is a traditional Korean martial art involving punching and kicking techniques. And over the past 10 years, the Taekwondowon has played a central role in promoting the traditional sport to the world. It has welcomed over 2.5 million visitors, with around 20,000 foreigners visiting each year for training in Taekwondo.
The Taekwondo Center was created through the strong desires of many Taekwondo practitioners. We run Taekwondo classes in 40 countries overseas and also provide various equipment to developing countries. We also support volunteer groups of university students to actively promote Taekwondo in developing countries.
A senior master in Germany who had contributed to the globalization of Taekwondo by actively engaging for nearly 40 years also came to celebrate.
In the past, we introduced Taekwondo by doing demonstrations on the streets. Then we started visiting elementary schools in Germany, gathering kids and teaching them. Things have changed a lot now.
The ceremony started with a marvelous performance by the Taekwondo demonstration team from Jeju University. Especially noteworthy was the straight punch event performed by 16 representatives who established the Taekwondowon 10 years ago. Minister of Culture, Sports and Tourism Yoon said the government will support making the center the hub of Taekwondo, enabling it to accurately spread the essence of Taekwondo.
Many people around the world who love Taekwondo, I hope they visit the Taekwondowon in Jeju at least once in their lifetime. I would be grateful if they experience the pure spirit of Taekwondo and then go back to their own countries and spread Taekwondo there.
September 4th is Taekwondo Day in South Korea. The Taekwondo Promotion Foundation plans to hold a grand ceremony that day to commemorate the 30th anniversary of Taekwondo being adopted as an official Olympic sport in 1994. Choi Soo-young, Arirang News, Jeju.
Time now to take a look at what's been happening in the world of sports. Joining us in the studio is our sports editor, Paul Neal. Hi, Paul.
Hello there.
Let's first start with football, a first league title in Europe for Kang-in.
Yes, Paris Saint-Germain are the champions of France once again. Title number 12 in total and their third in a row, but the first for Kang-in, who joined the club last summer. PSG had the chance to seal the title themselves on Saturday, but could only muster a draw against Le Havre. For Kang-in, he provided an assist to make it 3-3, supplying Gonzalo Ramos in the 95th minute. The title was then sealed on Sunday when second-placed Monaco lost to Lyon 3-2. For Kang-in, he joins Park Ji-sung and Kim Min-jae as the Koreans who have won league titles in one of Europe's top 5 leagues. It's been a good first season in France for him too, scoring 2 and assisting 3 in 20 league appearances, 4 goals and 4 assists in all competitions from 31 appearances.
And sticking with South Koreans in Europe, goals for 2 Premier League forwards.
Yes, Hwang Hee-chan and Son Heung-min were both on the score sheets over the weekend. Hwang Hee-chan on Saturday scored his 11th Premier League goal of the season as Wolverhampton Wanderers beat Luton Town 2-1. Hwang opened the scoring on 39 minutes to help his team earn a first win in 7. Wolves now sit 11th in the table and have a chance of finishing in the top half. On Sunday, Son Heung-min scored his 16th of the season in Tottenham's 3-2 North London derby loss to Arsenal. It came via a penalty late on to make it 3-2. Spurs have now lost 2 on the trot, but 5th place remains in their hands, sitting 6 points clear of Manchester United with a game in hand.
And to baseball now. We're well into the swing of the things in the KBO. Some records have been broken.
Yeah, for saves and for home runs as well. For saves, the record goes to Oh Seung-wan of the Samsung Lions. On Sunday, in the Lions' 11-6 win over the Kium Heroes, Oh recorded his 408th save. This is the most for any player in a single league in Asia. The previous record was held by Hitoki Iwase of Junichi Dragons in Japan. Now, a save refers to when a relief pitcher finishes a game for the winning team. In Sunday's game, he took to the mound in the 9th inning and allowed no runs at all to help win the series 3-0. And last Wednesday, Che Jong of the SSG Landers became the KBO's all-time leader for home runs. He hit home run number 468 against the Lotte Giants. It was his 10th of the season. Meanwhile, in MLB on Sunday, Lee Jong-hoo made it 3 hits in as many matches as the San Francisco Giants beat the Pittsburgh Pirates 3-2.
Finally, to archery, a couple of medals for Im Si-hyun.
Yes, and with the Olympics just around the corner too as well. Korea's Im Si-hyun on Saturday in Shanghai won 2 Archery World Cup gold medals, 1 individual and 1 team. She beat Deepika Kumari of India in straight sets 6-0. Then, along with Kim Woo-jin, beat Spain in the mixed team final 5-4. It was the first international tournament of the year.
All right, thank you, Paul. See you next time.
Thank you.
Unlike the early summer-like weather over the weekend, we have rain falling. By early morning tomorrow, up to 40 millimeters of rain will fall in Gyeongsangnam-do province, 30 on Jeju Island, and 20 in other southern regions. Less than 5 millimeters is predicted for the Chungcheong-do provinces and southern areas of Gangwon-do province. The amount of rain will not be large, however, caution is necessary as strong rain is expected around the southern coast. Since rain clouds have been staying everywhere today, the high temperature phenomenon that continued over the weekend will be dampened. The daytime temperature in Seoul will drop to 23 degrees Celsius. With temperature differences, you should dress up in layers. Tomorrow morning, Seoul and Daegu will start off at 14 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 24 in Chuncheon and Daejeon, Gyeongju 25 degrees. Rain or showers will pass frequently in the southern inland areas for the time being. You'd better carry a small umbrella in your bag. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up